does it take to build a thriving career while amplifying the voices of everyday change makers? Well, today on the Power Transformation Podcast, we welcome Gabrielena Alcalá, who is a healthcare consultant, entrepreneur, and podcast host. You see, Gabi's journey from Venezuela to the United States is one of resilience, adaptation, and purpose. And through her podcast, Cada Paso, she shares the inspiring stories of unsung heroes making a difference in their communities. And in this episode, Gabi opens up about her own path, some of the challenges she's faced in her true transformation. And I welcome you to the Power Transformation Podcast. I am your host, Alethea Felton. And if you have not done so already, go ahead and follow, like, subscribe, and share the Power Transformation Podcast. And as a reminder, we are also on YouTube now. I am gradually uploading YouTube episodes, so they're not all up there just yet, but stay tuned. Let's go ahead and jump right into this incredible interview. We start here on the audio podcast with our affirmation. I'll say the affirmation once and you repeat it. With every step forward, I create new possibilities for myself and others. I am so happy today to have this guest, Gabi Alcalá, here on the Power Transformation the Power Transformation Podcast. I was going to say Power Transformation Story because she certainly has a story. But welcome, Gabi. I'm so glad to have you here today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. And the audience heard a little bit about you in terms of professionally prior to us starting. And you're going to share more of your story, but I always like to start with a fun, lighthearted icebreaker question. And so this is the question for you. Gabi, if you could choose a day to just have nothing but leisure, no work, no anything, what would that ideal day look like for you?
Well, I'm going to start by saying that a full day of leisure, like staying at home, doing nothing, will not work for me. I know now for certain that I'm happy when I'm in movement. So a day of leisure for me will be doing some sport, intense sport. After doing sports, seeing some friends, maybe going to lunch or maybe going for a little walk. Then some time by myself doing whatever I feel like doing. I don't know, depending on and probably seeing the sunset at some nice place where there is water. There is a body of water. That will be a leisure day, and then come home and be with my family.
I love the water also. What is it about the water that really draws you in?
I don't know. It's funny because I don't like to be inside the water. I hate being inside the water. But I think looking at the water calms me down. And I'm the type of person that is always on. So that's why I like it, because it kind of relaxes me. It gives me, I don't know, it's like it helps me say, okay, I just want to slow down now.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. Wow. So we've learned a little bit about you just through that aspect. But the question I have next is, if a person were to ask you, who is Gabi Alcalá, what would you say to them?
I would say Gabi is a very organized person, very with a lot of how do you say, determination, and people say that I have a lot of willpower. I will say that it's more that I'm very connected to my values and to the things that I want for my life and the things that bring me energy. So I'm extremely connected, and any decision I take, it's connected with that. I'm very family oriented. very clear on the things that I like, very clear that I want to protect my family,
Indeed.
and very honest and direct, I will say.
Where does that sense of protecting your family stem from? Did that come from your early origins, or is it something that you've learned to just develop over the years? Take us to that.
Yeah, no, early in my life, my father he had four other siblings, and they were very close to each other. I never heard them fighting. I always saw them helping each other. We got together every weekend, the extended family, everybody. It was a huge family. And it was all fun and good. Even in difficult moments, we were there together and sharing amazing time. To this
Mhm.
day, my father passed away, unfortunately. But to
Mm.
this day, I'm so close to my uncles, to my cousins, even though we don't live in the same city. But it's just an incredible family. In fact, when my father was ill and in his last days, he spent 2 months at a hospital in Venezuela,
Mhm.
and the family was together the whole 2 months. We helped each other. There wasn't a single day with less than 6 or 7 people at the hospital.
Mm.
And we were, I mean, it was a dramatic moment. We were laughing. We were doing things that my father used to love to do. We lived his last few days the way he wanted to live life.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, that is definitely a beautiful testament to the power of family, love, and just coming together in those challenging times. So let's go back some prior to us going to where you are now and just paint a picture for me. Share with us a pivotal moment in your childhood that really started to shape and solidify your identity, which eventually led you to be the person you are today?
So I mean, I think there are a lot of traits that I have right now that were part of me since I was born,
Mhm.
from what my parents described me. But I think I live in a small town in Venezuela. Life was really good, and there's starting to appear economic problems in Venezuela that
Mhm.
affected a lot my family and affected my father. And then my father got sick. He was a physician and he couldn't work for some time. So there were some economic issues, both at the national level, but also at my family.
Mhm.
And I realized that I wanted to have a life that gave me the possibility of having options. So I was very clear that I needed to be educated, that I needed
Mhm.
to be connected with different people, and that I needed to pursue the things that I really wanted to have the options in my life.
Yeah.
And that's how I ended up studying in the United States, even though my family couldn't pay for my education here.
Mhm.
I find ways to get a scholarship so that I could be educated here.
I think that's actually very commendable is that you knew early on, or at least had an idea as to what kind of life that you wanted to pay for yourself. Because sometimes I have encountered people, yes, who are similar to you who knew, but then there were others I've met who are like, I don't know. Now, my life has continued to change year after year after year, but I always knew from a young age that I wanted to at least be established, of course, have a very good education and solid background. And so that to me, I think is very, very honorable is that you took a leap. But Gabby, this is my thing. You took a leap to a different country. A
Yeah.
lot of people do not do that. You actually left a different country, different continent, even to really pursue a new life. So, education, you came to the States. Out of all of the places, what drew you and led you to come to the US?
So I think it was more there was a program in Venezuela to help Venezuelans to study postgraduate education in the United States.
Oh, okay.
So a few of my friends from my university, my college, were doing it and they mentioned it. And I say, okay, I want to do the same. So I apply and I got in. So at that moment, it was only the United States where they were sending people. So I never explored any other place just because those were the options. But I want to say that when you say I moved to another country, the reality is that I came here to study only. I didn't
Oh.
come with the idea of staying in the United States. My idea was to study, so it was fun. And then go back to Venezuela. But things started to deteriorate in Venezuela at a very fast pace. And we said, a few of us who came on the DAP program, we said, well, let's stay in the United States until things get better. It's been 30 years and they have gotten worse, not better.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
only imagine that. And thank you for bringing out that part, is that there's something to me when it comes to home, regardless of where a person is. It's like, yes, you may have come here to study, but home is still home.
Yes. Yes.
And yeah, home is still home. It's going to be home. And so, with you coming to the States and then you realizing, you know what? Home isn't quite as I remembered it. It's changing. Maybe it's not the best thing for me. Take us through those times, Gabby, of how you adjusted and then I guess finally accepted the fact that this is where you were going to have to make your life, because that's not for the weak. A lot of people cannot do it. And on top of that, become such a success as you have been. So how did you learn over the years to just navigate and reconcile within yourself to make the best out of this particular situation, although that longing for home has always been there?
Yeah. That's a good question. As a friend of mine from Uruguay, by the way, he said to my husband and I at some point, you don't decide to stay, you keep staying. And I think that's what happened. We never decide to stay here. You just keep staying until you probably become more part. You're not from here, not from there. And for a long time, I always kept hope that I was going to go back. In fact, I will go to Venezuela often and see my physicians there. I will send my clothing for repair there. I will buy my medicines there. Everything was there. I will go like 2 or 3 times a year until things started to get so bad in Venezuela. You couldn't even go because it was not safe to go. And the situation got so bad that actually thousands or millions of people left Venezuela to other countries because you couldn't live there. So there was no option to go. In fact, it's easier easier in the sense to make the decision to stay when you don't have the option to go back. So for many, many years and to this day, I don't have the option to go back. I mean, I could, but it would be pretty stupid to go back. It would be very complicated to go back.
And thank you for even saying that, B, because especially here, and I am not a political podcast. I'm gonna tell people that already. I don't talk about politics or anything, but I'm just saying this generally. No matter what side of politics people are on in the US, the concept of immigration is huge. And for you coming through legal routes, and I even shared with you, I'm part Mexican. And so I've lived in Mexico. I do understand, even if it's from Mexico, Latin America, South America, wherever, any continent on in earth. I know a lot of people who have come to the States due to school and have had to stay. And maybe they didn't want to, but when you talk about the concept of not being able to go back, sometimes that can be challenging for people from the States who are born and raised here to really understand. Because
Yeah,
until you've had that experience,
totally.
now I'm from here, I'm from the States, but I understand why people come here and the fact that a lot of them just cannot go back because it's
Totally.
safer. So I do appreciate you saying that because there's so many things that our news and our media don't show and frankly don't care about here and I think should because it is the plight of so many people who are really longing for home and just can't. And so that leads me in that this area of thinking about who you are as a person and what you do. There are a couple of layers of it, but I want to get into the healthcare aspect of it first. Is
Yeah.
what led you to have a career, let alone a thriving career in the healthcare industry? Is it something that you set out to do, or did it kind of come to you?
Well, my father, as I mentioned, was a physician in
Mhm.
Venezuela, and I was very close to him, and I wanted to follow his path, but I didn't want to be a physician. So I found a way. So I studied economics, and then I found a way to be involved in healthcare, but more from the management side of healthcare
Mhm.
and in process improvement and quality improvement and all those areas. And that's how I chose healthcare,
Mhm.
more
Mhm.
following my father's path, but not necessarily the same one that he had.
And what has been one of the most fulfilling aspects of your career in healthcare?
Uh, I mean, you're asking a hard question right now because healthcare is so complicated in the United States
Oh, it
that I
is.
know I have more frustration than.
Yeah, I know. I know.
I mean,
Just
I'm
what
like, yeah, but
it's okay. It's okay. I get it. You don't have to look. This is just a conversation. You don't have to answer that
no, no,
question.
no, no. I
But-
actually have something. I think
Okay.
has been to understand how the system works
Mhm.
so that I can be an empowered patient and
Mhm.
not a patient that goes and takes things as they're told. I have now tools that allows me to be more engaged with my own care and that
Mhm.
of my family and my friends when I can. So I understand the healthcare system a lot to
Mhm.
know how to navigate. That doesn't mean it's easy. That doesn't
Of course.
mean it's not gonna be broken for me at all. But at least I understand how it works.
Exactly. And I asked that intentionally as a transition into more of the heart and the root and the core and the essence of who you are and what you do even outside of that is the fact, Gabby, that although you've had this career in healthcare, one of your passion areas or your passion project is truly helping people share their stories, helping people shift and transition to the next level. And as a coach, you help people to do that and to move past that. So take us on this journey of what led you toward coaching and then share specifically how you coach people and what your sweet spot is. What is that passion area when it comes to coaching? Tell us about something in your life that happened that led you to that.
Yeah. So I think I can connect a little bit the work that I do in healthcare to my coaching in the sense that in the one of the things that I like to do now in my healthcare life, and going back to your previous question,
Mhm.
is there is a transition now to a better healthcare system that is called value-based care. So what I do then, and we're not going to get into those details, but I'm
Mhm.
helping providers be more successful in that space. And I kept hearing from my clients that they like how I related with a stakeholder, how I manage the projects, how I help them transition through these in a very organized way. Okay, so that's one thing. And then I realized that I had been creating my own business like completely on my own for a long time because I have those set of skills. But at some point, I realized that it was a lot of work to do these things on my own. So I decided to get a coach. And I realized how important it was to have someone who helped me even though I was accountable. If I say I'm going to do something, I'll do it. Mm-hmm. But it was nice to do something with someone else to brainstorm ideas. So last year, I said, why don't I do the same? Why don't I help other people move their ideas forward so that they don't do it alone? Those people that need that accountability, that someone to help them and hold their hand in a certain way. And since I'm very organized and I have this stakeholder ability, I mean, I'm able to relate with people well. Why don't I use those skills toward helping people advance their ideas? That's how I decided to be in the coaching business. So everything is a little bit connected. It's the same type of skills and the same idea of helping people advance something.
So how exactly do you go about doing that? Maybe not telling all of your trade tips and secrets, but say if a client or a person comes to you and they want to advance, they want to move forward, but they're absolutely just stuck. They don't know how to get there. They don't know how to piece it together. How can you go about shifting and moving and just not moving them, but really getting them to excel into that next version of themselves that they want to be in order to attain that goal that they're seeking?
Yeah. So I start from the beginning. Let's get to know get to know yourself. Who are you? Who do you really want to be? What do you enjoy? What are your values? What kind of life you want to have? What are your strengths? What are the shadows of those strengths? Because sometimes the shadow of your strength are really holding you back. So we start with all of that and try to be very clear of the type of life that will bring you the most joy and that will be the kind of life you can have for a long time. Because you can do things for 3 months, but you have to find something that you can do in the long run, because otherwise, it's not easy. So you have to keep going. And so we start with that. If the person wants to already have an idea of a business they want to do, we use a framework that is very step by step on what are the things they need to do to start getting that service or product out there. And also helping them with tips on organization. Okay. Because what I find a lot is missing that part of the structure and the structure, the tools, and the changes you need to implement in your life to really do what you want to do for the long term. So it's that. So I will say it's like 3 parts. Is that, or the third part is connected with the second. Is identifying really well who you are, using a framework that is very step by step to get that product or service out, and then also organizational tools that you can use and tips that you can use to remain productive.
That is a very systemic and organized process. And you said from the beginning that you're a very organized person. And so I can see how all of this comes together in play. And as you're coaching your clients, it kind of sparks the question for me, Gabby, in thinking about your own life journey. Tell me about a time where maybe you felt a bit stuck and how you had to push yourself out of that to evolve into the place where you want it to be next?
Um, I so I guess I am very. My husband says when I want something, I go for it. I'm
Yes.
rarely stuck.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to say that we get stuck with our self-limiting belief. There are
Mm.
days that I wake up and say, who am I to be doing this? Or I say, well, I mean, that person is doing it because X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm.
Or so, you start with those thoughts that are completely useless and that just lower your energy.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the way that sometimes I get stuck, or when you compare with someone.
Yeah.
Oh, they already did it. How are they going to do it? I'm so far alone. So I get stuck in that way, but I have the tools now to really
Mm-hmm.
say, well, this is my journey, and I have a philosophy in life. You can only score goals if you shoot to the goal, to the goalie. I mean, if you don't
Uh-huh.
try, if you don't start moving, you don't advance. So for me, perfection is the enemy of the good. So I just
Mm-hmm.
start, and then I fix as I go. And whenever those thoughts come in my place, I just take one. I take one task. I do another task. I know that takes me closer to that thing that I want to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and thank you for mentioning that part about it, because even if you or others listening or watching don't get stuck in a serious way, I think you're absolutely correct, is that every person still has those self-limiting beliefs
Yeah.
that we're constantly navigating through, which can be a form of getting stuck. And so the way that you will yourself to taking every step to get to where you have to be, I think is key. And mentioning every steps, Gabby, you just didn't stop at coaching, you just didn't stop at the healthcare industry, but you actually decided to get into the podcast world. And the fact that your podcast, the English translation is at every step, is quite profound. So, what I'd like us to do now is, I'm just curious. I want to pick your brain as to what sparked the idea, that innovation for a podcast, and tell us about what that podcast focuses on and how it's helping people.
So I guess it was one of these ideals. I noticed that most of the podcasts are, when I started, were a lot about famous people. But I
Mm,
noticed that around me, there were so many people doing impressive things that I said, these stories, nobody know these stories. How can we share these stories and inspire others to do something good for their community or for themselves?
mhm,
And you don't necessarily have to be famous to achieve change around you. So that's how it started. I wanted to interview people that were not necessarily famous, but that were doing really good things in their communities. So that's how it started. But it also is, I was so interested in this conversation and learning from their journey that I thought others could also benefit from these conversations.
mm.
That's how I started the podcast.
And so, what is the premise? I know that you said it's about stories, but I guess what I'm asking more about, I think that the title itself is really spectacular. What led you to naming it that?
But it's people that at each step are impacting someone. That's
Ah, okay. I got
that's
you.
it's
Mhm,
more that um and the idea was that through their reflection, it's all about reflection. Like I rarely ask too much about their job. I ask
mhm.
more about their journey as a person.
That's
So it's
right.
thinking about their how through the reflections of others we can reflect as well.
Exactly. And that's why I like our podcasts do have similarities, because I always say with anybody that I encounter, even if it's like a meet and greet, even if we took our titles away, if we stripped us away of what we did, I am so interested in who you are at the core of being a
Yeah,
person.
exactly.
And I think that's important, because if we put everybody in a room together and all we had was us at the very essence of who we are as humans, I think that oftentimes we find we have so much more in common than we do different, because we all go through this human experience. And so that leads me to even wondering, when you're thinking about this journey of having everyday ordinary people sharing their stories and also how they are influencing the world around them, let's kind of shift here and talk about how are you showing up as the mom who is leaving this legacy for her children. So I want to talk about that. Is that, what type of a legacy are you hoping to lay down for those who come after you and for generations to come?
Yeah. I think the one thing that I always tell my daughters is, for the most part, anything you want to do, that you really want to do. I mean, you have to be very clear if something you want to do, you can do it. You'll figure it out and you'll do it. I think sometimes we don't do certain things because we don't really want them. We're not willing to do the sacrifice that are needed to get there. But my message to them is always, figure it out. You're going to be able to do it if you really want it. But
Mhm.
connect with yourself to see if that's what you really want to do. So that's the legacy I want to leave. I mean, there are all the things, obviously, that, you know,
Mhm.
always be good to people, be compassionate and all those things. But I always tell them, just try. Just My father, he always said, don't say it, just do it.
Mhm.
So I always have that in my mind. When I said to my father, um, I want to study economics, don't say it, just do it. I mean, like,
Mhm.
something. He would always say, like, just get started.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Gabby, when we talk about power transformations for my show, the Power Transformation Podcast is, as you know, it's how people have had to learn to overcome that challenge or adversity and just really be resilient in what they do, and to show up for not only others but for themselves. In thinking about your life journey as a whole, how do you define resilience, and how has that played a part in your journey as a coach as well as a podcaster, as you are interviewing people from all walks of life?
I I I think for me, it's being clear on what I want and what I believe on.
Mm. Mhm.
Um, Being connected with what brings me energy and what lowers my energy as well.
Yeah.
And also, I d- like the I'm not into victimization. So I know that there are things that happen in my life that could have been better,
Mhm.
but they're not. So, like, I don't live in my country. They're not. So it is what it is. So that's
Mm.
a little bit the way I see things. So that helps me do all the things that I want to move forward.
Mhm. And it's really fascinating that you said you don't believe in victimization because
Yeah.
I have encountered certain people. So I have a journey, but instead of me staying stuck in what I've gone through, I've used those as fuel, catalysts
Yeah.
to really launch me to that next level. And so there are people, though, who almost wear their victimhood like a badge of honor, and it really keeps them in this loop. And so, in thinking about that whole concept of it, is how have you learned to just navigate those waves and those challenges throughout your life without falling back into that victim mindset that you have refused to have for so many years? How do you do that continually throughout your life?
Yeah. But I think, I mean, I don't know if my friends would agree with this or the people who know me would agree with this, but
Uh,
I have been lucky in my life.
mhm,
Um, in many ways, I have been lucky. So it's to this day, I think nothing horrible has happened to me. So it's probably easier for me
mhm,
to talk about not being a victim.
mhm,
But I don't know. The thing, I grew up in a household where there was no this didn't exist. The way my father and my mom talked to us constantly was like, okay, yes, and okay, yes, and what are you gonna like?
uh-huh,
Yeah, I got it. I understand. Okay,
mhm,
now what are you gonna do?
mhm,
So it never registered in my life that, oh, I can, oh, I know. No, it was like, okay, this happened. Okay, what's next?
mhm,
So I don't know. I
mhm.
think it's the way I have lived all the time, but also again, I don't think anything horrible has happened in my life that I would. I don't know if I would change my mind. Something really bad happens.
Yeah. But again, it's all about perspective because you may not recognize it, but I would say me from an objective point of view, for you to say nothing's horrible ever happened in my life, there may be somebody listening who's like, what is she talking about? Nothing
Yes.
horrible's happened. She can't go back to her home country to live. That's horrible. That could be horrible for someone else. And so, even when I have guests here on my show, sometimes I'll have people to say, well, I haven't really had anything bad. I tell people, your story and your challenge is your challenge. Never
Yes.
compare it with anybody else's because what's hard for me might not be hard for someone else. And I think it goes back to that whole premise of not being a victim, of really standing in your power and knowing who you are, and to say, hey, what happened has happened. I can't change it, but I can choose to make life and the next steps better for me as time
Yeah.
goes on. And so that
Yeah.
strength you have is to me the epitome of resilience, is that you've had to learn to adjust and navigate with each change in tide. It kind of reminds me a lot of my not by your age, but the way that you speak and your thoughts. My mom is very similar. She's like, hey, things happen. It is what it is. I can't change it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna move on. And to me, she's gone through a lot of stuff, but to her, it's nothing. So even
Yeah.
to say,
So that's why I said I
yeah.
have a friend in mind. She will say, "What are you talking about?"
I love it though. I really love it because then too it's like that is what keeps you going. You are aware of everything that's happened to you. You're not out of touch with it. But I think what my mom tells me is that the past is the past. What's done is done. And so all
Yeah.
I can do is choose to move forward. So as we come to a close, Gabby, first of all, before I ask a closing question, Say if a person's listening to you and they may, just like me, speak Spanish and English and want to learn more about your podcast, about your coaching services, and I'll have all of this in show notes, but how can a person go about doing that?
Yes. So my podcast, it's on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and other platforms. It's called A Cada Paso podcast. I have a webpage as well for my podcast, and a newsletter that I write about. I send a newsletter with a reflection of the day and the podcast. And they can find me also on my website, of my company website, Mapa Healthcare Consulting. You can contact me from there, and we can talk about coaching if you want, connecting with your values, or anything else you want to talk.
Wonderful. And say, Gabby, if a listener is hearing you and say, I'm very intrigued with everything that you had to say, I know that I want to make an advancement, but I don't think it's possible for me. I'm just in this rut. I'm in this state. I don't know which direction to go. There can't be hope or help for me. What would you say to that person?
That there's definitely, everybody has something to offer. Everybody has something that makes them special. And that sounds very cliche, but really you have something. And if not, you can learn it. And then it's only about getting started. The moment you start and you start refining and seeing and learning, you are on your path. Everything is just advancement. It's really just advancement. I used to think as well, I mean, until you connect with your strength and the life you want to live, you're not going to be able to discover what you can offer. Like I had a friend who stayed over my house this weekend, and she's like, yeah, but I don't know. I may be in this organization. I don't know what I have. And I asked her for opinion about a course that I'm creating, and she gave me an amazing feedback. And I'm like, here you are. You have something to offer, which she didn't know.
Yeah, exactly. And as a closing question, especially thinking about what a person has to offer and that we all have something to offer. Gabby, when you think about yourself and all that you've gone through, overcome, soared in, and excelled, what is your greatest strength and where does that strength come from?
I think I'm a doer. I do things. If I learn something, I apply it. If I go to a course, I'm going to apply what I learn. If I have something in my mind, I will do it. I'm just a doer.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Power Transformation Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow or subscribe, leave a 5-star rating, and write a review. It helps us inspire even more listeners. And don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who could use a little power in their transformation. Until next time, keep bouncing back, keep rising, and be good to yourself and to others.